The world's most powerful passport versus my current passport? It's a tough call. How to choose? Recently, I've been thinking a lot about Singapore passport. And hi, my name is Koala. I hold a US passport. No doubt, it's a powerful passport and I love US, which is always my country. And I love Singapore deeply from my heart. And I've lived in Singapore over 5 years and it's been my home since. And how did this thinking about passport thing come along? It's definitely not something overnight. It's been lingering in my thoughts for a while, but recently there have been a couple of triggers that really tired me down. The first thing is tax filing. The second thing is my travel visas. The first thing about tax filing is that like every February, March, April, I spend a couple of months just gathering my tax documents, banks, mortgage, and investment and all of that together to calculate some really complicated rules from residency status to investing to overseas income. It always takes me like 2 months to file it every year. So for the past couple of months, the tax filing has been my full-time job on every single weekend. You know how easy Singapore tax filing is? So basically, there are just a couple of buttons on the website where you can click and they automatically calculate how much taxes you need to pay. Second is my travel. So for those who have been following my Instagram posts, I post a lot more travel updates on my Instagram. I'm on my way to visit every single country in the world. That is 193 countries. I'm now at 175, so I got 18 more to go. To be honest, the visa situations in my recent travels have been quite tough. One day they notified me I got rejected. And I was like, what? Like, why? I would definitely not change my passport because of travel or tax. I'm just saying that these are the triggers for me to think about some other possibilities. Then I've also done some comparison between American passports and Singapore passports. So first is the passport power rank. You're probably aware that Singapore passport now is ranked the world's most powerful passport and US is number 6. And second, in terms of visa free, so Singapore can give you access to 194 destinations in the world, including 151 visa-free and 32 visa on arrival and 11 e-visas. Then for US, you can get 186 destinations, including 141 visas free, which is 10 less than Singapore. So it really depends on what kind of countries you're going to. So for me, because I always go to those less travel countries, it definitely make a big difference. So for Asia, Singapore can also give you access to Cambodia, China, Georgia, Indonesia, and Laos. But for Americans, you need visas to all of these Asian countries. So say in Africa a few months ago, I went to Angola. So before I went to Angola, I need to apply for a e-visa in advance, but for Singaporean, the visa is free. One of the countries that I've been applying visas to is Venezuela. First, I have to say that I'm very lucky. There's a Venezuela embassy in Singapore. When I went in, people are quite nice. But then as an American, I have to submit a thick pile of documentations, literally like a book, really thick, that has many months of my bank statements and forms and stuff, Then I waited and waited for 2 months and I thought that, my background is good, I should be able to get the visa, but you know what? Then they kept my passport there for 2 months and I waited and waited. Then one day they notified me I got rejected. And I was like, what? Why? They didn't give you any reason why they reject you, but basically with American passport to apply for that visa, it's quite tough. Then I attempted Venezuela visa in Dominican Republic again. Then now I'm trying the Venezuela visa in Mexico again, the 3rd time. There are also extra security clearance when you apply for visas in other countries such as Libya, Iran, and Syria. So if American passport applying for any of these visa would be quite difficult. So people always afraid that, Americans are spies. But I'm just a YouTuber. I work on a normal job. While I understand why people think that way, I still feel in some way, discriminated. So for other passports like Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, those are quite easy. They can just get a visa on arrival. Number 3 is taxes. So Singapore, you have 0 capital gain taxes whenever you do investing or trading. So in the US, you need to pay up to 37% for short-term capital gains. And it's actually more complicated than that. You need to separate your long-term capital gains versus the short-term capital gain, and you calculate the tax brackets that way. So if you're Singaporean, you can live anywhere and you don't need to pay Singapore tax. But as American, you have to pay your tax bill to Uncle Sam, doesn't matter where you live, because US is the only country that imposes global taxation. And then I need to estimate my tax payments for the next year. So if I underestimate my tax payment or forget to pay every quarter, then I need to pay penalty. And I also need to file my financial asset disclosure, like my bank account outside of the US, I need to report back to the US. Tax filing has been my full-time job on every single weekend. And number 4 is the medical insurance system. So for Singapore PR and citizen, there's something called MediSave and MediShield. So this covers the basic medical needs of the residents. It's not very comprehensive, so you still need to pay like a few $100s a year to buy your private coverage, and that money can be deducted from your MediSave, which is like a special account that's saved up for you to pay for your medical bills. That portion of the MediSave money is actually deducted from your monthly salary. It's kind of like 401k in the US. So like I said, you should still get your private coverage because the public coverage is there for you by default. It's up to you if you want to use it or not. So for US, Medicare is only for people who's above 65 years old. So if you're a younger person, you need to figure out by yourself. And there are 2 parts. One is Part A, the other is Part B. So for Part A, it's paid by the US government. Part B is something you need to pay extra. So in a way, it's similar to the Singapore ISP, which is the integrated shield plan where you need to pay extra on top of the public coverage. Others in consideration is like safety. I feel very safe in Singapore. Crime rate is 847 every 100,000 people, which is like 0.847%. In the US, the crime rate is around like 5%, so like 6 times of Singapore. Though this is not quite relevant, as in like you can live in Singapore without a Singapore passport, you know. You can live as a foreigner, you can live as an expat. It doesn't matter whether or not you have the passport, but I'm just saying that it's just one of the parameters that I consider. Then there's the cost of living. I've made a lot of video about cost of living in Singapore. So the big cities in the US like San Francisco and New York, the cost of living is way higher than that in Singapore. If you want to see those details about Singapore cost of living, so go back to those videos that I make on my channel. So I'll link it up here or here. So personally, I love Singapore so much. If they allow dual passports, I would have gotten the passport long time ago without thinking. But it's a huge decision when you have to give up one. So if you ask me, so what's holding me back? I say it's my heart, not the logic. My parents are still Americans and my family are always Americans. And they are getting old, and I always think, what if they need American citizens to help them with some medical or something? Like, I'm the only child, you know, so if I don't help them, there's nobody else will help them. So anyways, comment below what you think about these 2 passports and what would you do if you were me. And thank you so much for watching. And I know that a lot of my audience voted Singapore in the recent poll that I put up. I've been asking you guys what kind of content you want. Singapore is still the #1. So here you go, I'm doing a Singapore content, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and do give a thumb up, share my video with other people, and feel free to check out my recent travel pictures on my Instagram. See you next time. And I'm on my way to visit every single country of. So one of the countries that I've been trying. One of the such as like Cambodia, China, Georgia, Indonesia, Indonesia and Laos, Georgia, Indonesia and Laos, Georgia, Indonesia and Laos, Georgia, Indonesia and Laos.